So, for some context, my husband was dating his ex, we'll call her P, for 2 years around 3 years ago, and they broke up due to some issues regarding her parents not wanting her to date him, etc., etc. He then met me a while later, and we began dating, and eventually happily married 3 years later. During these 3 years and up till now, my husband is still very good friends with P, meeting her for lunch and dinner every now and then, checking up on her. I didn't really care much because my husband promised me that he was completely over her, and she also had another boyfriend. We will call him J. And their relationship was that of good platonic friends. But recently, my husband and P have been meeting more and more often, and he mentions to me how P needs emotional support as it turns out that J is abusive and controlling, limiting the amount of time she gets to spend with her family and friends. Them meeting more often is okay for me, but this has come at the expense of our usual lunches that we have together on workdays. We both manage to find jobs that have the same lunch hour, and we meet for lunch on a daily basis, unless he has work to catch up on. We used to do this about 3 to 4 times a week, but now he's been canceling lunch on me to eat with P more and more. We now have lunch together about once a week. I highlighted this to my husband, and he said that he doesn't have any other options as P's boyfriend, Jay, monitors her activities after work and on weekends. The only time she has freedom to find support and talk with her friends is during her lunch break, which also coincides with his. I feel horrible about her situation, but also feel jealous of this arrangement as my husband and I rarely have time for each other. On weekends, he goes out with his buddies. I go to the gym or my classes. However, things have escalated insanely as of recent. Jay was physically A to P, slapping her in the face so hard that 2 of her teeth came out, punching her and giving her a black eye. That was the last straw for P, and she grabbed her things and ran away from Jay's apartment. She is currently in a woman's shelter, but my husband, without asking me or informing me at all in any way, decided to invite her to live with us. I asked him why she couldn't continue staying there. He explained that he didn't feel right leaving his best friend, note, up till then he had always called me his best friend, so this kind of hurt, alone in a shelter. And he wanted her to move in so he could take care of her and make sure she was doing okay. He then told me I was controlling and not understanding, and forcing him to be a crappy friend. I broke down and apologized. I asked him how long she was staying here, and he replied, however long she needs to. I have set up the guest room for her. She is moving in tomorrow. I am afraid that I will begin to grow resentful towards her. But this whole situation is not her fault. She's trapped in crappy circumstances. I am afraid of growing apart from my husband. I truly love him. I don't want our marriage to break down because of this. We were planning to have kids soon. I can't imagine a future without him. And a part of me is also afraid that they'll grow even closer now, and eventually he might leave me for her. He's been growing emotionally distant from me since I first highlighted that I wasn't really happy about the situation. I am scared that they might rekindle their feelings towards each other. Since P's parents have already cut her off, their initial issues are no longer there. What do I do? Update. Hello all. Thank you so much for your responses. It's been a draining day. So much has happened since I last posted. I see that many of you have called me a pushover, a doormat, and all of you are absolutely right. I've let my husband's happiness and P's happiness take precedence over mine for too long. When my husband came home, I told him that we needed to talk, and his immediate reaction was to tell me to go away because he was tired and to talk to him another time. I refused and followed him until he ran into our room and locked the door, and he shouted at me to go away again. I went back into the living room where I realized that he had left his handphone. Normally, I would not snoop. I am not that type of person. I had full trust in him. But after reading all your messages about how he could be having an emotional affair, I decided to check his messages with P. Hundreds and hundreds of inappropriate messages between them. Exchanging end photos. I wanted to vomit. I love yous. I miss yous. And it had turned out that the reason why Jay had hit P that night was because he had discovered her sending N to my husband. I snapped a few photos of their exchanges. Needless to say, I will be contacting my lawyer to start the divorce proceedings, as many of you have recommended. Luckily, before I married my husband, my parents had insisted that I make a prenup, which included an infidelity clause. I have decided that I am not going anywhere. I am staying right here in my home that I have built. I will fight, and likely win the fight, to keep my home. P is still coming over to stay, but it doesn't affect me anymore. I have no more feelings left for my soon-to-be ex-husband, and I couldn't care less about this woman. I have briefly contacted my lawyer, who has asked me to gather evidence regarding his cheating and infidelity. I will continue to do so. I am also considering hiring a private detective to help me gather more evidence. I will be visiting his office on Monday morning. Thank you all so much. I thought I would be crushed, but it really feels like a weight has been lifted off me. I have given so much for my husband, moving, my previous job, and I was even going to give up my job when we would have children. Wish me luck, guys. Me personally, I never understood close friendships between exes. An ex is not your friend. You had an affair with that person. I wouldn't want my wife to be friends with her ex, and I think it would be disrespectful if I was. I think OP was naive by thinking it's normal that her husband had lunch with his ex so often, especially choosing to have lunch with his ex instead of OP. And I still don't understand why she didn't kick them out after finding out. About 5 years ago, my, male 31, father, male 62, approached me and my younger brothers, 27 and 30, and said he had something important he wanted to talk to us about. He is getting older and has recently remarried after his divorce to our mother, 60, and wanted us to sign some papers in relation to him updating his will. He asked us to show up at a meeting in his lawyer's office. In the office, he explained he wanted us to sign papers allowing his new wife, 59, in the event of his death, to remain in control of all our father's assets until she also passed away. The assets would, after her passing, be divided equally between me and my brothers. In my country, you cannot choose who gets to inherit your assets. There is a percentage set by law on how it should be divided, so no heir can be left completely out. But any amount that exceeds USD 250K may be distributed freely. If we choose not to sign the papers, we would get only the amount mandated by law, which in this case will be the USD 250K each, and not the entire estate of about $2 million. In the time my father's new wife is in control of the assets, she can pretty much do whatever she wants with the money. After a discussion with my brothers, we decided that we will not be signing anything. We love our father, but if he should pass away early, we are all in a place in our lives where actually getting an inheritance now would be preferable to getting a much larger amount when his wife potentially may live another 30 to 40 years. My father was angered by this, as it means if he should pass, his wife would have to sell the house. We even offered to make an agreement, giving her 3 years to sell the house in order for her not to be tossed to the streets straight after losing her husband. But my dad wasn't having any of it. He claims that we are all idiots for not allowing him to do what he wants with money he has earned. We never signed anything, and we didn't really speak of it again. Life went back to normal and no bad blood. Until COVID. Now my father is worried about getting COVID and wants to revisit the issue. I have spoken to my brothers again, and we all pretty much agree that if he wants her to have the house, he can transfer whatever he wants to her name while he's still alive. But he wouldn't do this, just in case he gets divorced. We are not signing anything. Are we the idiots for not going along with our father's wishes? Okay, guys. So Dad doesn't want to transfer anything to his wife's name while he's alive. It means he doesn't trust her, but wants his kids to trust her. Nice. I don't think OP is an idiot. I personally wouldn't sign anything. What if she spends everything before she dies? His children will be left without anything in this case. When money is involved, it is best not to trust anyone to do the right thing. Update. My father gathered all of us in the lawyer's office on Monday and told us he had decided to follow the normal division of assets in our country when he passes. This means that my brothers and I will split 66% of his estate, and his wife will get the remaining 33%. My father has bought a nice apartment and put it in my stepmother's name, and they will rent it out. Should my father pass before his wife, she now has a property where she can reside. Something we are all happy with. Don't know about Dad's wife. Why the sudden change of heart, you ask? Well, back when this discussion started 5 years ago, my mother got really upset with my father because she felt like he was choosing his new wife over his children. And as many of you advised, my mother went to my grandparents, who are wealthy, and told them what my father had asked us all to sign. My grandparents had then amended their will to skip my father, leaving him with the mandatory minimum, and willing his share to me and my brothers. My dad, then after some discussion with my grandparents, set up his will to reflect what is considered normal division of assets, and my grandparents' assets will be placed in a trust that my father controls in order to ensure he can't leave their wealth to his new wife. So my boyfriend of 9 years, let's call him Andrew, and I just moved to London so he could do his undergrad degree and I could pursue my career. To live as a couple, we have been living with a roommate, let's call her Lauren, in a 2-bedroom apartment. I have supported him financially over the last 4 years at different times, paying his share of the rent. In that time, he has had a part-time job in retail. Last year, 2018, he was working full-time and I was working part-time and studying, but I paid the rent and bills then. He was saving for the first year of his undergrad because due to some circumstances, he could not get that funded. In October, we moved to London so I could get a graduate job and he could study at university here with the understanding that I would pay the rent and bills so he could study. When we moved, I believed he would get some kind of job to help contribute in some way around his studies. As of January, he still had not got one, as he said he was unable to find any part-time work. Since October, him and the roommate have been spending lots of time together. I leave earliest in the morning, and I'm the last one home at night, usually home around 7:30 p.m. Lauren is home with Andrew from around 6. There are times I've come home to find both of them out doing activities together without letting me know they were even going. They have done things like order food for dinner without asking if I would want anything. One time, I even arrived home and met the delivery driver in the hallway. For a long time, I've felt like the third wheel. They have inside jokes, have watched movies without me, gone on days out to museums, and explored the new area. Andrew and I have been having constant conversations about our relationship and if we should even be together. He feels that I have used him as a therapist and that I am too emotional, have no direction in life. I'm not independent, mature, and I am not consistent and I am unpredictable. So you are aware, my mom is diagnosed with cancer last year and my dad is having bad mental health problems. My granny and granddad also passed away in 2019. Last year, I finished my undergraduate degree and managed to secure a good job before moving over to London. In the last 2 weeks, my mom has had a serious health scare, and my dad tried to leave this world. On Wednesday, Andrew told me that he had made a decision that though he had tried to help me to be more independent emotionally, he was unable to support me anymore. I then left it to calm down. Then I went to the living room where Andrew and Lauren were hanging out, and then he clarified that he wanted to break up with me. Andrew and Lauren have both admitted that they have feelings for each other and they want to see how things go. They have said that I don't have to understand, but I have to accept how they feel. At the time, Andrew said that we should never say never to being back together, but the current situation is what it is. They are aware that they may not go out with each other long term, and Andrew and I might get back together. He thinks that now is a good opportunity for us to have time apart. I can become independent and that we can both have new experiences. They both want me to stay in the apartment and not move out so that I don't isolate myself in a new city, as they both care for me, or so they say. I have a feeling it could be more to do with the fact that I am paying half the rent. They have also advised me not to go on any dates so that I can take the time to emotionally heal. When they first told me, I said they could both pursue their relationship immediately. However, after a day or so, I told them that would make me extremely uncomfortable. They have then said I am being inconsistent with how I am feeling. I have said I was in no right mind to make any decisions when I was just broken up with, but they don't seem to understand. They have said they want to help me through this, and they believe they are making many accommodations for me by not flirting in front of me, using her room instead of the living room when they want to spend time together. On Saturday, Lauren admitted to me that they had already kissed on Thursday night. Andrew and I have a lot of mutual friends, and he asked my advice on how to best mention Lauren to our friends group without putting her in a bad light. Andrew believes that for us to be together, I need to change how I am. He has tried to help and advise me, and I haven't acted on any of it. He feels that I really rely on him to do everything, such as listen to me when I have any problems, and he doesn't feel that I am taking action on his advice. Over the last 4 months, I haven't made as much of an effort as I should have to meet new people, and I have been relying on both of them to be my friends in a new city. I have, however, tried to pursue things like piano and art at home. All I asked of them was to let me know if they were doing something, or at least invite me out, even if it was too late for me to go. Lauren is also aware that Andrew may end up getting back with me, and is happy to let him take his time to decide. Andrew believes all of this is my fault, and that all I need to do is improve myself and become independent so that there is a chance that we can get back together. By the way, I am the one paying for all of the rent in London, obviously expensive, while he does not work. They fully expect me to stay in the flat, be friends with them both, and make it work. It would be good to know your thoughts on the situation. In my opinion, boyfriend and roommate are both horrible people, using OP because they want her paying the rent. She just needs to move out as soon as possible and cut contact with these people. My husband Daniel and I have been together for 6 years, married for 3. When we met, he was an engineer here in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley, while I was a teacher. I was making around $60,000 a year, which is nothing in the Bay Area, so I was still living at my parents' house, and he was making around $110,000, which is just enough to get a 1-bedroom apartment in a decent area. After about a year of dating, we moved in together and married a bit after that. He always paid the majority of the bills, I'll admit that. Daniel worked full-time as an engineer when we met, but had a side project that he and a friend were really passionate about. Just a few months after we married, the side project really took off, and they had buyers interested. They ended up selling the side project, and my husband and his friend pocketed a couple million each. They teamed up again for another project, and that one did well too. 2 successes opened up a lot of doors for them. Investors, capital, resources, all of that. My husband quit his old job in order to work on innovating more products with the capital and investors that are now available to them. I know I'm being vague, don't want this to be identifiable. Anyways, he's not Elon Musk or anything, but he's doing really well. Just last year, we bought a nice house in the Bay Area, which I always thought was unobtainable. New house, plus 2 new cars, plus we eat out and go out more, plus no vacations, and no financial stress. Our lives have improved a lot with this money. I definitely would not be living a life so comfortable if it weren't for my husband's success. So I was a teacher up until about 6 months ago. I've always hated my job. I worked at an awful school with 0 administrative support and poor funding. It was beyond stressful. Dreaded going to work each morning. My husband has known about this for ages, and he sat me down this past summer and said, I finally make enough to support us both, and I can't enjoy my life if you're not happy. Quit your job and pursue something else. If you want to go to school, go to school. If you want to focus on raising our future kids, do that. I just want you to be happy. Music to my ears. I could write a book about how great this man is. We're planning on starting a family in 2018-2019. Things are really good right now. Okay, so that's all background. Here's the problem. Daniel sat me down a few days ago and said he wants to sign a post-nup agreement to protect himself and his work, just in case something happens. He said that the circumstances when we got married versus now are very different. And again, wants to protect himself. He basically wants something where if our relationship ends, he doesn't lose too much money. He gave me time to think about it. I don't know how I feel about this. I talked with my best friend about it, and both of us are just confused. I was with my husband when we were just two normal middle-class people, and now, all of a sudden, I feel like he doesn't trust me because he has money. I've never asked him for anything now that I wouldn't have asked before. I didn't ask him to buy me a new car or to support me if I quit my job. I've never gone on shopping sprees with his card or anything like that. It just hurts me. And honestly, I can't help but to think about how, now that he's rich, he could leave me tomorrow and hook up with some gorgeous 22-year-old. It's just a really sad feeling. He told me this a few days ago, and it ruined my Christmas because I just can't get it out of my head. I would never hurt my husband, even if our relationship ended, so I don't feel the need for a post-nup at all. But really, I'm just sad. I think OP should get a lawyer. If there really is no ill intent by OP's husband, and he really just wants to, say, protect his business, then it would be wise for OP to just consult her own attorney and actually include clauses that would benefit her. Example, if ex-husband cheats, then X occurs. But I kind of feel like hubby is digging his own grave. He basically said, "I don't trust you." He can't unsay it. It's already impacting the wife. OP is clearly hurt. It's like he inadvertently set the divorce wheels in motion. What do you think, guys? How would you feel in OP's situation?